Hey, welcome to Intern Connect, the podcast where we prove the best place to launch your career might be closer than you think. I'm your host, Karen George, the program manager for Hello West Michigan. Whether you're halfway through your first internship, still figuring out what to do with your life, or just trying to find a coffee shop that isn't a 45-minute drive away, this podcast is for you. West Michigan is having a moment. From the lakeshore to downtown Grand Rapids, companies here are doing big things, and they want you to be a part of it. Each episode, we'll sit down with former interns who turned their summers into careers, local coordinators who know what it takes to stand out, and HR leaders who are actively looking for the next generation of West Michigan talent. Now let's get connected. Hello, West Michigan. I'm here today with Megan Mousseau and Shannon Luther from Meijer. Megan Mousseau is the college relations specialist, and Shannon Luther is the manager of corporate and college talent acquisition. I'm really excited to have them in the room with us today. Hi, Megan and Shannon.
Hi.
Hello. So start us off by walking us through your career journeys. What have you learned along the way? Tell us about how you got to your current role and what your current role is. We'll start with you, Shannon.
So for me, my career journey has taken me to a couple different places. Right out of college, one of the things, and this ties into the what have you learned along the way. When I graduated college, I applied for a staffing position, recruiter role at a staffing firm. And they called me and said, we filled that position, but we have a receptionist opening where we have somebody going on leave. We'd like you to fill in for these 12 weeks. It helps you really learn all the ins and outs behind the scenes, everything really in the office. And if it goes well, we'll transfer you into a recruiting role. Being right out of college, I said, sure, give me the opportunity. So I took it and ended up being there for 10 years before I transitioned to Meijer. So when I left there, I was overseeing all the recruiters in the office and over half of our accounts that we managed. Came to Meijer as an HR generalist. This is my fifth position that I've had with Meijer, so constant just opportunity for career growth and development. But that's really what led me back to this role is, having that background in recruiting and then the excitement of working with our college interns and just having that early in career opportunity to work with people that are coming out of college and might not know what they want to do next.
That's great. And I love that you turned, a 12-week opportunity into a 10-year opportunity. It tells you what you can do with just something that starts off small and you can turn it into something really big. That's great. Now, Megan, same question. Tell us about your career journey.
So I was not really sure what I wanted to do. So I decided to go to a community college for a couple of years. Just did general business classes. And then still didn't really find my place. So I started to work at a grocery store in my hometown. And then transitioned into more of a leadership role when I was there and really liked it, but there wasn't a lot of long-term growth at that company. So started to look for opportunities outside of the town I was in, and it brought me to West Michigan and to work at Meijer. So I started with the company 12 years ago as a retail management employee, so working in general merchandise, leading the team there, and quickly transitioned to a leadership position in the bakery, and then held some other management positions throughout the company, and then decided that I really liked the HR side of everything, so transitioned into more of an HR-related role, and then that brought me to the corporate world, where I was able to join the talent acquisition team as a scheduler, so scheduling corporate interviews, working with the talent acquisition team, and then that brought me into the college side. They needed some help, so started to work on college relations with our internship program, and I've been doing that for the last 7 years now. So the biggest thing that I learned along the way was that even if you don't know what you want to do, just being open to other opportunities. Most of my transitions throughout the company have been because my manager came to me and said, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? And while it wasn't something that I necessarily would have planned for myself, it was a great opportunity to just learn the business and step outside of my comfort zone. And then that led me to a position that I really like and have been doing for a long time.
That's amazing. You mentioned your internship program. Can you guys tell me a little bit more about it? I know you have 81 interns, which is amazing. So tell me a little bit about the history of the program and, what that looks like for them.
Yeah, so we usually have anywhere between 80 and 90 interns every summer. They're spread throughout our business areas, so we have primarily corporate opportunities in areas like IT and finance, supply chain, merchandising, and some sprinkled throughout other areas. And then we have some opportunities in our stores as well. So in store leadership and then in an HR related role as well. They're with us for 11 and a half weeks typically. So for most of the summer, we do a lot of events with them for professional development, trying to set them up for success for the summer. We tour a distribution facility. We take them on the road, try to teach them about the business and expand beyond the area that they're in. And then everybody's assigned a project to work on for the summer. So that's usually the biggest piece of what they're doing with us, something that's tied to what our business is currently working on, and really giving the interns an opportunity to use what they've learned in the classroom, apply it in a real world setting, and give us some new ideas and recommendations on how to improve our business operations.
That's incredible. Shannon, I'll direct this to you. So obviously interns on these big projects, they'll need a lot of feedback. They need a lot of advice, a lot of learning. So what's the best way for an intern to get genuine, useful feedback from their manager? And it's, something beyond just a casual, you're doing great. Because we know that's not necessarily constructive feedback.
So for an intern, the best way really to get that feedback is to really ask the open-ended questions and be specific with the questions that you're asking. So if you're looking for feedback, say, on a presentation that you just did, be specific on what you're looking for. Make sure you're asking your manager how you showed up in that presentation. What are one or two things that I could potentially do better coming out of that presentation? Think about the things that you want to gain from that conversation and that feedback that you're looking for, and make sure you're intentional with the questions that you're putting together for your leader. That's really the best way to get that useful feedback. There's always opportunities outside of your leader to lean into other people as well that are in the room that you're engaging with, that are in different meetings, and lean on those resources. That's one good thing about our internship program is not only do we have a leader that you're paired with for the summer, but you also have a mentor that you're paired with as well. So that mentor is another great resource that we provide our interns, where you can get that feedback. They'll help you make connections across the business and just keep those open lines of communication really with all the different business partners that you're working with.
That's great. And how does that mentor, how do you get paired with the mentor? How do you choose a mentor?
So we usually leave it up to the leader to look within their business area to determine who would be a strong mentor for that intern based on really what the project is. So like Megan was saying, all of our projects are tied back to our overall strategy, 5-year strategy for our company. So looking at who's currently working on the project that they're going to be coming into, who's already really ingrained in that work, and who's somebody that has a really robust knowledge of what they're going to be working on. And that's the best way that we go about pairing them together.
That's great. I love that you give them opportunities to build relationships, because I think that's a really important skill and important thing to learn when you're starting your career. What is your advice for an intern who's trying to build their relationships across a large organization like Meijer, maybe outside of those mentorship and leadership relationships?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Shannon was saying about being intentional. I think a great thing about our company with our internship program is that everybody really wants to connect with the interns throughout the summer. So tell them to use that to their advantage, and no one's going to say no to grabbing coffee or setting up a meeting so that they can learn more. So really just understanding what they want to learn and who they want to talk to. Obviously, they're not going to know who everybody is within the company and who they should be reaching out to learn more about it. But using the first assistant, who's their supervisor, talking to their mentor, utilizing the college relations team, and just having conversations of like, hey, I want to learn more about this. Who should I reach out to, or can you help me reach out to that person? Because really, if they're going to learn about the business and build relationships, they need to be intentional and have the courage to reach out and have those conversations.
Absolutely. It's a courage that takes a little while to build, but it's definitely important. Obviously, this podcast is for folks who are interning here in West Michigan, but not all of those interns are from West Michigan. So for an intern relocating to West Michigan for the summer, what advice would you give them to make the most of the area beyond the office? And I know that both of you are originally from Michigan, but not West Michigan. So if you want to speak to that as well.
So for me, one thing that I would say, just really look at the different opportunities that are around. We give them resources. I know Megan sends out a ton of information to interns before they start about what are the different things in West Michigan and Grand Rapids that they can do. Where they live for the summer is great because we partner with Grand Valley State for the housing downtown for our interns. So they're really right in the middle of everything, which is phenomenal. So just making sure that you're reading all the materials that we're giving you, even in the conversations that you're having with people within the business or different people that you're meeting throughout the day, talking to them about what are some things that they like to do. Not every conversation has to be completely professional the entire time and strictly business related. Get to know the person a little bit. Ask them about, what they like to do after work and what are some of their favorite places to go. Because if you're not from here, you don't know unless you ask.
Awesome. Is there a standout interns love going here spot that you've noticed from what you've learned?
I don't think there's a standout spot. I think West Michigan just has a lot to offer that a lot of people don't typically realize.
Yeah.
Like your drivable distance to the beach if you want to go there after work or on the weekend. We have so many festivals and museums that are available for everyone to go to. So it's really just, I would say, like getting out there in the community. There's something for everybody. You just need to take the initiative and get out there.
Yeah, it all comes back to initiative. I love it. So going back to selecting interns, we didn't talk too much about that, but selecting interns and once they're in the office, what do you look for in an intern that tells you early on that they're going to be a standout employee?
Yeah, so I mentioned courage earlier. I say that courage and curiosity are always the two biggest things that really help an intern stand out. We know that everybody's going to come with some knowledge throughout their classroom learnings, and maybe they've already had an internship or they've had some work experience, but being able to come into the internship and really just dive in, ask questions, learn as much as they can. We give them the project to work on so that they can learn something new, but we're really asking them to give us their ideas, give us solutions, give us an idea of how to impact our business and how to do things differently. Because just because we do something a certain way doesn't mean that that's the best way. We want fresh ideas and fresh eyes on everything. So being able to ask questions, I always say you get out of this internship what you put into it. So meet people. Don't be afraid to speak up. If you're in a meeting, don't sit back and just listen.
Yeah.
It's great to sit back and listen. And then if you do have a question, even if it's not appropriate to say it during the meeting, ask your supervisor after, ask your mentor after. Really try to understand the why behind everything that you're doing this summer.
Absolutely. I like that you're talking about courage because I think it really does hit on the fact that these things are difficult. It is really scary to be the one in a meeting asking questions and raising your hand, especially if you're the youngest in the room or the least experienced in the room. But that's what makes the difference is the ability to ask the question and it's okay to not have the answers. It's just important that you're the one raising your hand. So for interns who are hoping to convert to a full-time role, when and how should they start advocating for themselves? And what does that conversation look like?
So for those that are looking to convert full-time, start early on advocating for yourself. If you know that we are the employer that you want to work for and that you are dedicated to Meijer and that you see the program, you see what we have to offer and you are all bought in and you're like, yes, this is where I want to be. Start having those conversations early on. Express your interests. Don't hesitate. Again, it goes back to that courage piece. So make sure that you are willing to have those conversations and talk about your interest in a company and what are the things that you want to learn about and what you appreciate about the company, and really help yourself be that standout intern like what Megan was talking about. But having those conversations early on, once you identify that, we are the place that you want to be, that helps us have a better understanding of what you're looking for and helps us kind of get a grasp on where we might be able to kind of plug you in at later.
Yeah, absolutely. That early communication.
Yep. And I think too, know what role you would be converting into and learn more about it. So we do have some positions where our internship correlates to the work that you would be doing full time, but not necessarily doing that actual job as an intern. And so we really encourage our interns to job shadow, learn about the conversion opportunity, see if it really is a role that they're interested in doing full time. Or if it's not that role, is there another role that you're interested in that you can learn more about?
That's great. Yeah. So if you two could go back and give yourself, your college age self, one piece of career advice, what would it be?
For me, I would say you're not going to know fresh out of high school, right when you start college, even maybe a year or so in, what you want to be when you grow up. HR was not the path that I started going to college for. I was going to be a high school math teacher, and I thought that was what I really wanted to do. And then I took some classes and I said, no, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So, just have that awareness that what you think you want to do when you're 18, 19 years old, it's okay if it changes. And it's okay to, even not have an idea when you decide to start college, right? If you go from high school right into college, taking gen ed classes and just getting those types of things out of the way and exploring different opportunities and taking advantage of what your college and university has to offer that you can learn from and learn about the different programs and just explore as much as possible to really determine what you want to be when you grow up.
That's great. What about you, Megan?
Yeah. I think giving yourself grace too, if you don't know what it is that you want to do. I think we put a lot of pressure on our high school students, middle school students of like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then really having them make a decision very early on in their lives when a lot can change. And even for me, I went to college, still didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so just not putting the pressure on yourself of like having to figure it out right away. It's okay. It'll take time, but have some sort of direction of what you want to do. But it's okay if you don't have everything fully planned out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't prepare you for this question, but I'm curious just because the conversation's heading that way. For the folks who maybe, or the interns who maybe are majoring in something, but then realize, in their senior year that is not going to lead them to a career they want. Do you think that there's, what's your advice to them? Do you think they have to get a career in that major? What does that look like?
I think there's transferable skills in everything. Our director is not an HR major. And I know many people who are like English majors, history majors, and are now doing something in the business world. So I think it's okay if it doesn't align with what you want to do or you make a last minute career shift. What you're learning in school is going to be transferable in a lot of areas because you're learning basic skills that are going to help you.
Absolutely. Anything to add, Shannon?
No, I think that's great. And like Megan said, skills, we as recruiters can look at your skills, have exploratory conversations with you, and really help you understand where you'd be a good fit within the business. We're a very large organization with a lot of different opportunities. So those exploratory conversations and really hearing the passion behind what you want to do and not just here are the skills I bring to the table, but what really drives you and what gets you excited to get up and come to work every day. That's really the strength of our recruiters, is to understand where that excitement lies and where we can really find that right position for you.
That's great. Sounds like you have a very good team over at Meijer.
We do.
So we have heard from a lot of interns that they know it's important to network. They know, especially in West Michigan, it's really important to build your relationships and how that will help you propel your career. But they don't know exactly how to do it. They don't have an idea of how to network. So could you give them your top networking trick or tip?
So networking can be scary.
Yes.
Even as an adult, networking can be scary when you walk into a room and you don't know anybody and you're just standing there with your name tag on and holding your beverage and just looking around the room like, who do I talk to? So one of the things that I like to do before I go to these events is I like to look at prior events maybe that this certain organization has had and see who has posted about it on LinkedIn and who has attended. And then if it's somebody that I can check out their profile and I can find some people where you might have connections. And then that helps you feel a little bit more at ease because you almost feel like you know somebody going into the room, but you really only internet know them going into the room and not fully know them. But it does help just make you feel a little bit more comfortable because you've found maybe somebody that you can talk to and start a conversation with.
Yeah. And that leads me to my next question. What is the best way to start a conversation when networking? And do you have any questions that interns should be asking in those conversations?
So for me, when I go to these events, the best way that I start a conversation is just more on start with the professional side. So I always introduce myself, talk about my role, talk about, what brought me to the event also. So Here's what I'm here. Here's what I'm hoping to get out of this event. And here's, kind of what I do in my professional life. And then they'll usually follow up with the same type of thing. And then that really helps kind of just break the ice and open up the conversation a little bit more. That's usually how I start. For interns going in, you're not necessarily going to have your profession, your career, but start talking about, yourself, your skills, where you go to school, what are some of the things that you do, what are some of the things that you're interested in. We just hosted a group of students from Western Michigan for their externship, and one of the things that we talked about with them was building your elevator speech before these events. So we worked with them to really build out their elevator pitch and had them actually deliver that to each other. So it just helps you feel a bit more comfortable if you practice that ahead of time too.
That's great. Any tips about building that elevator pitch real quick? Any ideas, any tips that they could use?
Short and sweet. So make
Yeah.
sure you're getting the point across, but in a very short, concise manner.
Yep, that's important for sure. I love it. Well, I have one last question for you guys, and it's kind of a fun one. I would love to go over your West Michigan favorites. So if you can share maybe your favorite restaurant, your favorite coffee shop, some hidden gems, things you like to do, any recommendations that our interns can take advantage of while they're here over the summer.
There's so many great ones. It's hard to just pick one or two. Anything in Easttown, love Maru, Brewery Vivant, anything on Cherry, Wealthy. It's always great.
For me, so we spend a lot of time on weekends. I love thrift stores and antique stores.
Ooh, yeah.
So Elevated Market is great. I love Elevated Market and Warehouse One Antiques. If you have a couple hours on a rainy weekend just to spend wandering around, it's so much stuff in a very, very large place, but you can get lost in there for hours.
That's great. That sounds awesome. That might be what I do this weekend. Who knows? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciated getting to know you all.
Thank
you.
Thanks for listening to Intern Connect. The Intern Connect social series is keeping the momentum going all summer long. Next up is an evening at Millennium Park on July 15th. Head to hellowestmichigan.com to register and get all the details. We'll see you there.